right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Veeam Product Strategy Live, episode 10, I think. This is going to be a fun one because we've all got the giggles. I can feel it. Welcome, everybody. So we've a couple of weeks. I mean, last time we were talking about VMworld, weren't we? And that wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, that was.
And today, we've got Melissa, got Michael, David's back as well. I don't think he was with us last time.
No, I missed
David's back. And we're here to talk about Veeam Live, another virtual event. Woo! No, but this is actually different though, right? Because this event is properly live. Like we're not, this is a family show, but we're not bullshitting, right? This is a real live event. Okay, so
live
it's going to
demo, live presentations, live everything.
That's it, right? So, this is Veeam's last big event for the year. I think in previous years, we've had a live event at this time of the year or maybe more pushed into November. Michael, I don't know whether you were involved in that last year or maybe Melissa was more involved.
I did it last year. Yes, I had a couple sessions last year. We did, wasn't called Veeam Live. It was Veeam on Virtual, right? But I guess because we literally had Veeam on Virtual this year already, right? So I guess we had to come up with a new, fresh twist on it. And that's how I guess we came up with Veeam Live. So last year was a great event. This year is going to be a little different, I think. I think it's going to be more interesting just from a content perspective, right? We're all doing different types of content than we might have done last year, even very different from Veeam Live. So we're all involved in it. We all have something live we're doing, right?
It could actually be called Product Strategy Live, to be honest.
It should be, right? Product Strategy.
Yeah, Live. It could be that. But if you look at the so basically for those that are out there that want to take a look at the agenda,
go to
and even sign up,
veeamlive.com and register today.
Veeamlive.com. So it's actually a free event as well. So much like most things this year, except VMworld, that had a paid component, I think. But this is totally free, and you get all the goodness. So if you guys go there to veeamlive.com, you can join up for free, and it's happening. When's it happening, David?
No idea. Next week, isn't it?
October
20th. What?
I'll tell you when the reminders pop up on my calendar. So yeah.
You know what? That's actually exactly why I went to you for that, because I knew that maybe you didn't know the date that it would be on.
Tuesday, October the 20th.
There we go, the 20th of October. And Michael, what time are we starting? When's it all kicking off?
Well, I think me and you are in for late ones, right? You even more so.
Yeah.
I don't know what time it starts.
It starts at 9:45 a.m. Eastern
9:45. Is that Eastern? Yeah,
Eastern US time, 9:45 a.m. with the Veeam Live warm-up. Grab a coffee, log in, and get ready before we go all live to bring you the future of IT to your fingertips in the opening keynote.
Wow.
As everyone can tell, Melissa's just gone to the website.
That opening keynote.
I was reading that right off the website, yeah.
But no, so that's good, right? So so from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock is when we're doing it. So the big thing about this event though is that it's different, right? We will Veeam ourselves, everyone who was involved in it wanted to make sure that it was a slightly different take on a virtual event with some slightly different way to offer the content up, right? So what you'll find is that there's actually a lot of industry analysts that are being involved, lots of customers and partners. So what we're actually doing is there's a general session with Danny Allen. He's taking us through a bit of an overview, a bit of a vision, and then talking to a customer, talking about the future landscape of data management. And then we're doing some breakouts, and those breakouts start at about 11:20 Eastern time. There's 3, so we've got running in triplicate, and that's when we basically break out and compete against each other to get people to watch us live.
Everyone's just going to come to my sessions, so because I'm.
What session have you got, David? Explain to us what you've got.
I'm actually doing 2 sessions, but the one I'm excited about both of them. But one of them is about Kubernetes best practices, where we get to talk about Kasten from Veeam. So obviously, after we announced last week that we acquired Kasten, I get to do a session with the CTO Vaibhav, who will be the CTO of our new Kubernetes business unit. And we get to talk around the best practices of Kubernetes backups. And then we also get to do some demos of the integration of the Kubernetes backup product
with
Veeam backup and replication. So I'm excited to talk about that, showcase that. That's going to be really phenomenal. I'm not going to give.
So you're actually doing some live sessions, some live demos there, David.
It will be a recorded demo because Caston haven't quite got up to speed with the Veeam way of live demos, but obviously me and Vibav will be live, and it's a really good session. It's 30 minutes, so you're not going to get bored with a PowerPoint. It's literally, here's some best practices. We have like 5 best practices, recommendations. Here's what we're doing with the future. This is how it's going to work. You know, obviously we talk a little bit about vSphere 7 integration with Kubernetes as well. So really good session. And then my other one is, and I'm going to have to remember the title.
So that first one's on. So David, that first one's on at 11:55 a.m. So just to put a time on it. So that's the second lot of breakout sessions. And then when's your next one?
That's interesting. I've got a calendar appointment for 10 a.m., which is 11 a.m.
Probably just to get on early, just knowing you. Just so you're not in the car.
No, you've got different times to what I've got. So might have to follow up with that. I'll be there anyway. I'm sure we'll work it out. Then my other session, which is quite exciting, I'm doing this session with an analyst from the Evaluator group, and this is on exploring multi-cloud lessons learned. So more of a like thought leadership. What are the lessons that we've kind of learned over the years, delivering multi-cloud services, working in multi-cloud environments? What are enterprises struggling with, and what are some of the lessons that we've learned? Certainly that I've learned over the years with 10 years of doing cloud now, from back in the early vCloud Director 1.0 days all the way through to what I'm doing now with AWS and Azure and Google. So that's really good. We got some cool content from the analysts from the Evaluator group that they've been talking to enterprises, how the whole COVID-19 thing has changed the use of the public cloud as well, which is quite interesting when you look at the demand for that, because people haven't been able to get in their data centers and things to go swap out hard drives and things. So that one's really exciting. According to my calendar, that's at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So
yes, because your calendar is obviously based on Central US time or whatever it is, and obviously on the website it's
quite clever. It shows my time zone and then the originating time zone as well.
That's what it does here as well. So that one is on at 11:55 a.m. Oh no, sorry, that was the previous one. The other one was on at 1:55 p.m. Eastern.
That's completely different to what is showing in my calendar. So
we'll work through it. Michael.
At least we're figuring this out before the 20th, right?
We'll be live.
This is actually the reason why we've had this episode, just to make sure David has his times right for next week.
Just to clarify.
Actually, Michael, we'll leave you. We'll go to Melissa. Melissa, just take us through your session.
Thank you. So I have one session, singular, and what my session I'm doing is, if you look at the agenda, right, there's kind of this whole thought leadership portion at the beginning of the day, and then in the afternoon it's like, hey, let's go technical, right? So Kirsten in our team and I are doing a session on Veeam 1, stay one step ahead of data loss with Veeam's proactive monitoring and alerting. So we'll be talking about Veeam 1 and showing you some of our favorite features and doing live demos. Who doesn't love a live demo?
No, you are doing some live demos. Cool. And I've got that on as Melissa, just so I'm not completely out of whack, I've got that for 2:35 p.m. Eastern.
That's what I see on the agenda as well.
Very good. Okay, very good. Then
that's when you'll be there.
That's when you'll be there.
Melissa,
I'll go.
Yes.
Hang on, Anthony. Let's start. Melissa, are you going to be sharing some of the V11 stuff there as a poll?
As a matter of fact, we will be talking about some of the wonderful new features coming to Veeam 1 and
Good
V11.
stuff.
Yes.
Okay,
and speaking of V11, that's a really good segue into something else, isn't it?
It is, but we won't get there. We won't get there just yet. So we'll basically, I know we'll let you tee it up later on. How's that? But how about Michael? Because I think Michael's got a really great session on something that's really, really edgy, sort of thought leadership and futuristic and scientific and all of the above. What's all that about, Michael?
Yeah, so I think it was about 9 months ago, I started looking into what our storage world is going to or potentially going to. So I'm teaming up with Henry from 451 Research, and we're doing a session not just on what's going to come or potentially come in 10 years' time from a storage perspective, but what is now and how cloud storage is changing the game in terms of where we're storing those backups of that data, but also a little bit of a look into what can we expect when we run out of how small we can get these PCBs to hold the storage and all of the stuff that goes along with the storage technology world today. When it becomes it can't be scaled any further, then we have to look at different medium types. Well, that's been going on for some years already. I've been doing a lot of geeky research into things like DNA, storing data within DNA, storing data within...
Hold on. Whoa. Stop. What do you mean DNA? Like, I guess people have to wait and see. I guess don't give it all away, but...
Well,
like,
yeah,
literally
enough,
DNA.
there's no live demos in this session. Although that would be a really cool demo.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not extracting your own DNA for it? Come on.
I don't know.
I was going to say, it's very altered carbon. Have you guys seen altered carbon?
Have it in my children, so
today we learned that Veeam Live is actually a Black Mirror episode.
Looks that
there
way.
we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be covering the future of data storage. But yeah, DNA. There's the University of Southampton, but Microsoft as well have been really heavily involved from a research project point of view, looking into DNA and glass and other medium types that you just wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
Most interesting around that DNA thing is that I saw the first thing that got me hooked on that was seeing a music artist store their album on a picture, on a painting, like mixed some DNA, just mix it in, and then splattered it onto a bit of canvas. And if you extract that off there, which is not an easy thing to do, we don't have the ability to do it very quickly, but ultimately they've spread their whole album across this canvas in terms of being able to protect that and then be able to store that for
This sounds like the future of
that sounds very that sounds very abstract.
Ooh.
That's where my mind lives.
So that's interesting. Okay, very good. And then going on to my session that I've got one session, one sort of breakout session, which is effectively having a little bit of a thought leadership look at where we are today with regards to data, where it's being stored, not specifically leading on to Michael's, but more logically in the day-to-day in terms of companies producing data on premises, in the cloud, on the edge, everywhere. Not in the DNA just yet, because we haven't got Veeam Cloud Connect replication. Yeah, we haven't quite got Veeam Cloud Connect replication for DNA just yet. That could be something
backup for human DNA.
Who knows what V12 holds?
Could be V12, right? Could be V12. So I've got that session happening, talking about cloud service providers, how they play in that role, talk about the services that Veeam still offers significantly in that space around infrastructure as a service, backup as a service, DR as a service, all the as a services. And then I'll be interviewing a couple of, one particular customer who's been putting it to work in terms of a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud approach, doing, data on the edge within a data center on premises, and then also speaking to one of our service providers who is the provider for that customer, talking about the technical side of it. So, and by the way, every session is 30 minutes. So I guess we forgot to say that. This has been a very targeted play to go 30 minutes, bang, bang, bang. Let's not bore people.
So even if you don't sit there the whole day and watch it, I don't think anybody expects people to sit the whole day and watch a virtual event anymore, right? Because we broke it up into these 30-minute segments, and we have such a variety of content, thought leadership, like really deep technical stuff. You can just grab a couple that you're interested in, right? You don't have to sit there all day from whatever. No one's going to do that anymore.
Our sessions.
Obviously all of our sessions.
The others, ours are the only ones that are really important.
Yeah, but seriously, go to veeamlive.com, look at the agenda, and pick out a couple things that seem really interesting, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, no, it's to be fair, you look at it and it has got quite a few good sessions, and obviously not just ours. I mean, we've got Dave Russell talking.
I know, there's this one session though that's really great, and it's going to be better than all of the other ones.
Well, we're not quite ready to get to that, Melissa.
Oh, come on!
Now let's string it out a little bit more. Because I just wanted to talk about some of the other, sessions out on there. With obviously Dave Russell's talking. We've got Danny Allen doing the basically bookending the event as you'd expect. Got Rick Vanover doing a bit of conversation. We've got Corinne Bissett doing some stuff. Edward Watson, my good mate Edward, doing a session with Corinne again. What else have we got here? We have got.
There's one where David Harvey. So he's our VP of strategic alliances, and he's got a session where Lenovo, Nutanix, and I think an IDC as well are on there.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
So combining different alliances as a round table with an analyst as well. I think that could be quite interesting. I think you could have got some more of our alliances involved there, and I think that could have been quite fruity.
Yeah, that's on at 1:20 p.m. Eastern as well. So yeah, I can see that one there. But then, as we get to the end of the day, so an interesting story about this, Michael, we probably won't tell the whole story, but effectively, this was going either way. But effectively, at 3:10 p.m., which is actually going to be 3:10 a.m. my time, and what time your time, Michael?
It's not that bad for me. It's only 8:10 in the evening or night.
Okay, so spread around the world, but basically because it is live and as dedicated as we are, Michael and I are going to bring you the Veeam V11 top 11 hottest new features that haven't been announced yet. Okay, so obviously at VeeamON, we announced 5 or 4 features for V11. And then Anton Gostev has released another one through his digest. If you haven't subscribed to the digest, that's a bit of a hint there. Anton sometimes drops these great nuggets on there. So, we've got 5 or 6 features that have been announced, but the rest is effectively under, controlled NDA, I guess, within the SEs and within our partners. So we're actually going to talk about more than 11, but we've basically grouped it, Michael and I, into the top 11 hottest new features, and that's on at 3:10. Yeah, 3:10 p.m. And Michael, I know that we're not going to give it away, but there's one particular feature that I don't think, outside of a few people, not too many people know this particular feature is being dropped in V11. So I'm actually quite excited about that. And I hope we don't get in trouble for actually saying it, because I'm not too sure that the powers that be have scanned the list with that sort of granularity yet. But hey.
There's two people that have seen it and said it's okay to say.
Yes. So if there's 2 people that have said it's okay, it's okay.
I'm still letting you do it so that I don't get in trouble.
Yeah. So I'm not
just
sure.
Blame it that you're tired, Anthony. If it doesn't go over well, be like,
yeah, there you go.
I'm so tired. It's 3:10 a.m.
But either way, I think it's one of those things that, it's not going to be for everybody. It's a certain subsection of the community that would appreciate this, but I think it's going to be massively well received. So that's one of the 11 that we're going to talk about.
But I think in general, when we talk about like all these new features, and there's like literally hundreds of features in each release, right? We'll focus on however many features at the launch. You'll see a bunch of blogs, blah, blah, blah. But like if you get the full list and read that what's new document, V10, it was like a 16-page document of what's new, like size 12 font. Like there's so much stuff in there. And when you look at a lot of the features that make it into the product, like I don't think there's any feature that you look at and you're like, well, this is dumb. What's this for? You see a feature and you're like, wow, that's really useful. And I never thought of doing something this way, but now I can. That's really cool. Like all these features solve problems. And I think a lot of them are things that customers encounter using the product, right? And are like, give feedback like, hey, it'd be really helpful if we could do X, Y, Z because of this.
Actually, funnily enough, so that was kind of the conversation when Michael and I were going through this list, because obviously we couldn't select everything. And it's like, well, what's going to be which ones have got the most bang? And certainly a few, Michael, stood out to us, didn't they? But then sometimes some of the feedback was like, that's not very cool. Why? It's such a small part of the release. But my perspective was that this particular one, not just another one we're talking about generically here, I thought it was quite big for a certain subsection of our customer base, Rice. But someone else was like, well, it's not big. So to your point, Melissa, there are features for everybody, and everybody, has a different use case for these features. And sometimes it might be a small use case, sometimes it might be a large one, sometimes it might actually be none at all. But the reality is that's what makes a great platform, right? Michael, what do you reckon about that? Because we did toss and turn a little bit over a few, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%. Like, so you wanted to take it down the cloud providers and do a whole session on stuff, right? But obviously, I had to rein you in and not do that, not let you do it. But this whole, exactly what Melissa says, right? So we've picked out 11 features and functionality, because in some of those we're talking about more than one feature, as you said, Anthony. But I think it will. Everyone, every Veeam customer, every Veeam prospect, every Veeam partner alliance there's something in that 11 that will interest them, and that's the big part. But there's still going to be a hell of a long list. That's why I asked Melissa about V11 in Veeam 1, in Melissa's Veeam 1 section, because we're not covering anything to do with Veeam 1 in ours. So that gives you a good idea as to what that long list looks like from a release comes. And I would say these are the biggest features and functionality coming, but there's this again, double, 3 times more, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, also with V11, we've been talking about, console V5 and lockstep. I mean, that's not going to be talked about. We've got a bunch of releases coming this quarter as well, actually. So, David, bring you back in the conversation. So, because I know you love talking about the public cloud and all that kind of stuff. The service providers can go to hell. So just talk a little bit about.
We all have a really unique perspective on the kind of segments.
I know David pretends to be all cloud native, but he loves the providers just as much as I do. I know he does.
Providers are a public cloud, in my opinion. Certainly a lot.
That's exactly right. Good save. But can we talk about? We'll pivot a little bit from Veeam Live and just talk about maybe this quarter, because I think it's quite exciting. Obviously, we opened up the quarter effectively with a massive acquisition, right, of Kasten, which is huge. And actually, so for the next episode, we're trying to get Niraj on, was the co-founder and CEO of Kasten. So hopefully he can come on the next episode and we can chat in depth about what they're doing and what it means to Veeam and to our customers. But David, where do you see from the public cloud releases? So we've got 2 releases coming in Q4.
Yeah. So from a release perspective, obviously Veeam backup for AWS, we're on version 2 right now. We're expecting version 3 to drop fairly soon, and also Veeam backup for Microsoft Azure version 2. So you'll notice like the version numbers when I'm talking, Azure's slightly behind AWS. But what's really good about the new features is, like Azure, for example, will have all the native integration with Veeam backup and replication, same as we do with AWS. And that is one of the big game changers. I actually talk about this a little bit in my session at Veeam Live next week, about how people, like Veeam always talks about this utopia of single pane of glass. When I was at VMware for 8 years, we talked about this single pane of glass. That is what Veeam is achieving with this native integration with Veeam backup and replication with the public clouds. The fact that you can manage your backups of all your workloads, whether it's physical, virtual, or in the public cloud through one console, is quite a big game changer that I see out in the industry. And that in the next quarter will be where we're at with these cloud products.
Yeah, so, and don't forget, besides backup and replication, right? What does backup and replication tie back into? Veeam 1, right? So there's a Veeam 1 component for these as well. If I don't say VAO or Veeam 1, there's something wrong with me, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's if I get through a whole thing and I don't say VAO or Veeam 1, I'm being held hostage. Come find me. But it ties back into Veeam 1, right? So a lot of people are using that for their management. Everybody loves the unprotected VMs feature in Veeam 1, right? To find those VMs that aren't being backed up. Now we can do it for the public cloud, right? And we can see our jobs. It's right in there next to the file tab that came in V10. So, we're really good at Veeam. We're so good at integrating everything into the whole platform, right? Like that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. And you'll find as well, like as we go forward, not giving any details away, but we're obviously going to talk about it as well with Kasten integration. As we go forward, being able to manage your backups in one central location is kind of critical as enterprises adopt this multi-cloud world more and more. So we do, like, I'm not going to give much away because we're going to talk about it next week, but you'll see certainly like a lot of the webinars that Sam Nichols and I do as well, where we're talking about the integration with the public clouds. Obviously, there's other public clouds as well, so you'll find out more information about them as time goes by. And building the whole platform to protect your workloads, regardless of where they are or what platform they're running on, whether it's Kubernetes, vSphere, Nutanix, physical, public cloud, that is just what an enterprise and what a lot of small businesses need as well. Because small businesses, like you mentioned, the service providers, small businesses love service providers because they get their hands held. They get that white glove service. You know, we can list so many service providers that help small businesses, enterprises with the managed service provider programs as well. And that across all these different platforms, whether it's AWS, iLand, or in your own on-premises data center, is critical to businesses being able to succeed, and especially during this pandemic, as I mentioned earlier. So
awesome. Well, that's good. So yeah, and
there you go. I threw the service providers in for you, mate. Just keep you happy.
I appreciate that. So yeah, and then obviously we've got a release of Veeam Backup for Office 365 coming in this quarter as well, V5, which has team support. So yeah, that's we've got a big quarter coming up in the lead on. But obviously the focus again, at least for next week, is Veeam Live. Veeamlive.com. There is actually a Veeam Live APJ. So just my APJ folks that might be, well, maybe listening, maybe not, who knows? Probably not. You know, for them, there'll be a separate event. And I think actually, Michael, just correct me if I'm wrong, there's a European event as well.
There is, yeah, in November.
Okay.
The 12th.
Oh, it's in November, okay. So the APJ event is a week after. It's on the 27th of October. That is veeamliveapj.com. So you could basically see everything again, slightly tweaked, slightly different. I think David's got a few sessions there. That one probably isn't as live as the Veeam Live proper. That's global because there's a few repeats. But yeah, if the APJ people can't stay up like me, up to 3 a.m. to be presenting, then they can wait a week to have it at a more suitable time. And then it seems like the EMEA folk are going to get a double dip with one in November. So that's pretty cool. All right, then. Well, let's wrap it up. This was our episode 10. Very quick overview of Veeam Live happening next week. Hopefully next episode we can get Niraj and we can talk about Kasten, and I think that's going to be fantastic just to have a very much relaxed off-the-cuff conversation with him, because he's quite a not only interesting but very engaging person, so looking forward to that. But with that, let's close it off. David, Melissa, Michael, we will see you guys next time. Veeamlive.com.
Next week. Who knows what time, because my calendar seems wrong.
See you all at Veeam Live, right? That's what we're supposed to say here. Go to veeamlive.com and register now.
See you guys later.
Later.